When the dog tries to spit at the moon, the dog will spit, but the spit will only come back down on its face. The moon will forever be unaffected by it. What do you do when your heart weighs heavy with a load it did not wish to carry? Your soul is crushed with what it cannot bear. Your ears revolt with what it cannot hear. Insults hurled towards the zenith of creation by the ones who grovel at the feet of Satan. May my mother and father be sacrificed for you, Ya Rasulullah. You are our beacon of hope, our guiding light, and our greatest pride. With what method should we retaliate to the ones who blaspheme while we profess to be the followers of Rahmatul Lil Alameen? What shall we Bro, when's the video starting? What the?
Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
Insults towards the Prophet ﷺ is a no-go zone for a Muslim. It is our red line. Insult the Prophet in front of Muslims and the reaction won't be pretty.
Muhammad is the name of the Prophet.
The fake prophet, yeah.
It's not a fake prophet. Don't say that. Like, literally don't say that about the religion.
Now, I'm not going to be talking about the Muslim world in this video. Go ahead and watch this video of mine from the 10th minute to see my thoughts there and hear the voice of a nightingale. However, when someone not in the Muslim world insults the Prophet, what is the proper reaction we should be giving? Should we react at all? Do reactions help with anything, or does it harm the image of Islam? I'm sure there's a coherent enough answer we have come up with as a community, right?
Prophet, peace be upon him, didn't allow these hurtful words to penetrate his heart because he knew who he truly was. But as you can see, his response was restrained. What a beautiful lesson there is in this particular response.
Yeah, we have not come up with a coherent answer. Now, hopefully you've all heard the voice of the nightingale already. Please go ahead and subscribe if you like the content. Hey you! Me? Yeah, you! You pray all 5 salah, right? Don't give me that, oh, I pray 2 to 3 times a day. Who's gonna wake up in the morning, bro? Oh, it's too hot to pray. If I can get you to pray all your salat, that's more important for me than anything else I'm putting out. And to help me help you, Just Pray is an app that is there to get your prayers in order. It doesn't just tell you what time prayer is at. This one's different. I mean, look at that. You got some explaining to do on why you prayed late. It's the Muslim parent you always wanted. Jokes aside, this has multiple amazing features to track your prayers. You can choose to lock all your favorite apps until you have proven that you've prayed. Not just by turning your alarm off, but by having to show your prayer mat, or janamaz, or sajada, or whatever you call it. On top of that, if you're new to salat and want to learn, there's several features on here to teach the basics of prayer, the steps involved for wudu, ghusl, etc. Sign up with the link in the description below. So, what should Muslims do if some guy in the Western world decides to insult the Prophet ﷺ? Honestly, what we do depends on what cards we hold. Rasulullah ﷺ said, "Whomsoever sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. If he is unable to do so, then let him change it with his tongue. And if he is unable to do that, then with his heart. And that is the weakest of Iman." When we hold some cards, we can change it with our hands. When we hold nothing, we can't expect to keep the same approach because we won't get the same results and we will look like desperate fools. When this Indian Hindutva Churail politician decided to insult the Prophet ﷺ on live Indian TV, the Gulf countries gave a sharp reaction to that, threatening to boycott Indian goods and summoning their Indian ambassadors, demanding an explanation. There's public pictures of Modi's face on public trash cans with a shoe imprinted on his face, but I can't seem to find it anymore. The Indian Hindu supremacist government backed down, suspended the politician that made the remark, fired another, and offered an apology saying these were fringe elements of our party, even though the reality is very different. So the Gulf countries flexed. Because they could. They can also flex against European cartoonists and American hacks, but then, you know.
White people know things about us. White people, wow, this is so crazy. Wow.
In the 1890s, the French were planning to perform a play called Mahomet, based off this Chakka Voltaire storyline, where he insults the Prophet ﷺ through fabricated storytelling. The French were planning on performing this play in theaters all across the French Empire. The Ottoman ambassador at the time protested, and the French foreign minister said, "We'll cancel it in the Muslim colonies of France, but don't tell us what to do in Paris." Remember this part. It will be important for later in the video. The Ottomans were at their absolute weakest point. They were known as the sick man of Europe. Yet, Sultan Abdul Hamid of the Ottoman Empire pressured France into canceling the play altogether.
Ben ki, İslam halifesi Abdülhamid Hanım. O temsili durdurmazsanız dünyayı başınıza yıkarım.
Unfortunately, this is probably the last time a Muslim state successfully pressured Europe into doing anything for the sake of the Prophet ﷺ. After that, I can give you a list of incidents that I personally know of, and many more probably that I'm not aware of, where Muslim governments were either spineless or useless. Salman Rushdie publishes some garbage book in the 80s, blaspheming pretty much every religion. The UK did not care what he wrote in the book.
Then he also cohabits with the Queen of England. He has sex with the Queen of England. I said, you know your queen, you're British. That guy is having sex with your queen. He said, but no, it's only a dream. I said, the bastard, when he wrote it, he was not dreaming, was he? Was he dreaming? Was he dreaming when he wrote the book?
The Queen liked the thought of this so much, they ended up knighting him. In 2005, some Danish cartoonists published cartoons against the Prophet ﷺ. All you Gen Z kids are too young, but us older veterans, we remember. Nothing happened. Muslim ambassadors demanded to meet with the Danish Prime Minister, and he refused. Denmark ignored everyone. Muslim countries showed them their wrath by boycotting Danish cookies for a year. Could have stopped giving them oil, but
all I'm saying, they're gonna get knock. Who's there?
Inspiring Philosophy's dad wanted to burn the Quran in 2010. Obama stopped him for a while, until he did it anyway. Some guy in 2012 hired a bunch of actors without them knowing what they were being hired for, and made them act in a lewd and disgusting manner, created a film out of it, and then branded it as the life of the Prophet Muhammad, and uploaded it to YouTube. The Muslim governments all made a collectively colossal yell to Google. And even Google, a frickin' corporation, told the Muslim world, sit down, we ain't removing nothing.
Man, just sit there and shut up.
However, Pakistan, the leader of the Muslim world, the bastion of the Islamic faith, Pakistan used its virtual nukes and punished YouTube.
I love Pakistan. I will sacrifice my life for Pakistan. I love Pakistan.
I will open as much educational institution as possible, and I'm proud to be a Pakistani.
Actually, they just screwed up by mistake and blocked YouTube for 2/3 of the world. So with the collective might of the Muslim world, Google listened and banned the video. In Muslim countries only. You know, the bare minimum. The stuff France initially promised in the 1890s. Unfortunately, no Khalifa, no Sultan Abdul Hamid exists today who could amp up any pressure. So clearly, we can no longer exert any pressure at that kind of scale anymore. So, since we can't rely on governments for this, some people came up with different solutions.
Terrorist.
What?
He is terrorist. He is very big terrorist.
Run.
For Salman Rushdie, Ayatollah Khomeini decided to issue a targeted assassination. Newsflash, that stopped nothing and made Islam look terrible. Not to mention, issuing targeted assassination fatwas into foreign lands are not Islamically sanctioned. Charlie Hebdo cartoonists were finished off by
Terrorist.
the French did some BS March for Freedom and published the cartoons anyway. We have lost the ability to stop these things with our hands. These
Terrorist.
are desperately trying to change things with their hands, but these idiots don't realize their hands are non-existent. It's not stopping anything. In fact, it's just further promoting the blasphemy. Because
Terrorist.
attacks can only scare individuals, not governments. And honestly, even if it does work like it did with South Park that one time, it's still haram to do. You can't individually go threatening to unalive people. It's against Islam. So, we do the second best thing the hadith says, which is stopping it with our tongues. Even though, realistically, we probably can't change things with our tongues either, but at least it's something. If one of your colleagues, co-workers, or non-Muslim friends decides to say anything offensive, you don't just ignore it or pretend to tolerate it. I know we all hate the guy I'm about to put on screen, but he did say one smart thing I still remember.
Because if you're tolerant of everything, then you stand for nothing.
You have to demonstrate your displeasure. If the person cares about you, they will feel regret and ask what hurt you so much, and then you can explain. If they don't care about you, cut them off. It's better and healthier for you to be around people who get you. The only exception are reverts with hostile family members. That's the only scenario I can think of where exercising caution, restraint, and patience makes sense, while you still continue to show your displeasure. You'll see a number of these low IQ blasphemous Twitter posts as well. I don't really know what to tell you for social media. Should we be responding and mocking these posts without insulting any deities, since that's haram in Islam? I'll be honest, it does feel good seeing responses to their stupidity. I know it gives people some satisfaction. I mean, that's what I kind of do on this channel too, plenty of times. But are we just promoting these posts in the algorithm by giving it attention? Are we making the world a worse place by responding to stupidity with stupidity? Probably, I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have much of a solution for you for random or useless people on Twitter. The best solution would be to get a hold of this guy, who is the second largest shareholder of Twitter after this illegal refugee, and tell him to stand up and do something, to defend his values. We don't need a 2,300 square meter masjid.
People of the West, wake up. This is happening.
Islam will be in every household.
Coming back to what Muslims who actually want to make it to Jannah should be doing with these gutter X posts. Should we take the higher road and ignore? Should we take the low road and ratio these guys? Should we take both?
Oh, you take the high road and I'll take the low road.
Is that the Trinity?
That was terrible.
Horrendous!
I'm offended.
I'm appalled!
So what are we gonna do?
Oh, what else? Email it to everybody we know!
Good idea.
The easiest solution I can give you is do not ever be friendly with such filth. because you are implying that you have tolerated their mockery, something you should never do. But let's say it's not just some loser keyboard warrior on Twitter. It's a public event, a protest outside the masjid, a Draw Muhammad event. We have to make some noise then. Or actually, don't just make unpleasant, uncoordinated noises when the Prophet is insulted. We have to be smart. We have to be organized. There's a quote from the Muslim poet Rumi who said, "Don't raise your voice, raise your words, for it is rain that grows the flowers, not the thunder." I was giving dawah once in front of the White House, and out of nowhere, I hear, "Ya Hussein!" I'm like, huh? And then a bunch of drummers and black banners show up and flood the entire White House area. It was Shias doing a Muharram march or something like that. A bunch of them saw me and got confused. They were like, is he our guy? But I realized if these guys can get organized and flood the White House square with this, why can't we do something similar to defend the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Instead of just protesting and screaming, why not show up with a bunch of people, get sound permits or whatever is needed outside of the venue to make it legal, get the biggest and loudest speakers possible, and blast nasheeds dedicated to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to completely drown out anything the opposition may try saying.
نعم سرى طيف من أهوى فأروقني والحب يعترض اللذات بالألم.
Could be a future video idea, honestly. The reality is, though, nobody cares what we have to say. Lamestream Zio-controlled media won't showcase us at all. Most people here in America don't even know the war restarted in the Middle East. But we did our part. We can't stop it with our hands, but at least we used our tongues. Ultimately, though, it doesn't matter what we do. The Prophet's honor and legacy does not hinge on piglet noises of these anti-Muslim freaks. Allah has elevated his messenger. The angels praise his messenger. The ummah praises Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam far greater and far louder than anyone can attack him. Every second on this planet, somebody is proclaiming out loud, "Ashhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah." I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Every single second. And we're not talking about private utterances. No, no, no. We're talking about loud, public proclamations. Every single second.
أشهد أن محمد رسول الله.
No other religious personality or doctrine can match this. Not Jesus, not Paul, not Buddha, not Mary, no scientist, world leader, or politician. None. This is a legacy that can never be touched, no matter how many dogs begin spitting and barking.
Oh Allah. محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفريقين من عرب ومن عجم. محمد أشرف الأعراب والعجم. محمد خير من يمشي على قدمي. محمد ذكره روح لأنفسنا. محمد شكره فرض على الأمم. مولاي صل خير الخلق كلهم الحمد لله منشئ الخلق من عدم ثم الصلاة على المختار في القدم فما لعينيك إن قلت اكففاها متى وما لقلبك إن قلت استفق يهيمي أيحسب الصب أن الحب منكتم